The best in the West in association with Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union is your trusted local financial partner. Access your money 24/7 from anywhere in the world with an Access Credit Union current account and enjoy all the benefits while keeping your money local. We support local communities. We support you.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport Podcast. My name is Jack McCarran of the Southern Star and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. On today's podcast we're going to be chatting to the winner of Best in the West, our search for West Cork's greatest ever sportsperson. The Best in the West is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union is your trusted local financial partner. Access your money 24/7 from anywhere in the world with an Access Credit Union current account and enjoy all the benefits while keeping your money local. On Saturday night, after over 5 weeks of competition, Ballylickey rally driver Keith Cronin was crowned champion following a nail-biting final against the Ballineen bullet Phil Healy. Kieran, there were over 4,000 votes in Saturday's final, and at one point it looked like we were heading for extra time, it was so close.
Yeah, it was an epic finale and a fitting conclusion to Best in the West, Jack, and it was actually almost 4,500 votes, which is huge, and that outdoes what we got in the pitch perfect final between Cora and Randall, so it shows that the public really did get behind the Best in the West final on Saturday, and it put two speed merchants up against each other. Keith Cronin, the fastest West Cork man in a car, and Phil Healy, the fastest West Cork person on legs. And so it was a sprint to the finish, and Keith got there in the end. But it was epic. It ebbed and flowed all the way through. And like I said, it was a fitting finale. And to be honest, Jack, I think we've a very fitting winner in Keith Cronin. I suppose over the last couple of weeks, we've had the chance to celebrate the exploits of some of West Cork's top sports people, and Keith is right in that bracket. And I probably finished this competition with a greater appreciation for what Keith has achieved.
Yeah, I think we were talking about it just before we started recording that there may have been a level of ignorance to Keith's achievements in some quarters around West Cork and around Ireland, but having looked deep into what he's done over his career, and there's probably still more to come, as we might find out in a few minutes when you speak to him. But yeah, I don't think his achievements can be overlooked anymore. A worthy winner. And when you see the love and appreciation that his own people have, the rally supporters, that's when you know, when you can see people who love the sport so much give him so much respect. He's obviously done a lot in the sport, and just he released a statement on Facebook after he won, and I just read from it here now. He said, "Once again, I'm amazed and humbled by the amount of votes I got in Best in the West. I was thrilled to be included in such a great group of fantastic sports people, but I never for a moment thought I would be voted West Cork's greatest sportsperson." So he mentions the word humble there, and it really rings true with Keith. And he also leaves a little teaser at the end, and you might go into this before we hear from Keith in a few minutes, but he says, "I took a break from rallying in order to concentrate on growing the family business, and when we get back to some kind of normality, I hope to get out and do a few events. Thanks a million." So it almost sounds like Keith has the rallying bug has bit him once again with Best in the West.
Yeah, the door is open. I suppose that's the way to put it, Jack. The door is open. Keith has left the door open for a return to rallying, and that's brilliant news for all motorsport fans. As we'll hear from him in a couple of minutes, the WRC is probably out of his reach, but Keith has won 4 British Rally Championship titles. He's won behind Jimmy McRae, who's a record of 5. So there's an incentive there for Keith to equal that record, and that would be a stunning feat for him. It all depends on the package that he gets. He talks about the package he got in 2017 with M Sport, and that was the ideal package for him to win the BRC. So if something like that came his way again, I think he'd find it very hard to turn down. But one of the surprising kind of things I learned from this is he's only 33 years of age. For some reason, I thought Keith Cronin was older. When you look at his list of achievements, like we mentioned there, the 4 British Rally Championship titles, he was West Cork Sports Star of the Year back in 2009. which is 11 years ago. He's an Irish Tarmac winner. He won the Billy Coleman Award. He won the Irish International Drivers Award. He's won these huge events kind of at home and abroad. Yet he's still only 33. So I was actually surprised by that. And like he says himself, he's still young in relative terms when it comes to the Irish Tarmac Series and the BRC. So the door is open, so we could see him back in the car hopefully before long, because what I think he's seen from Best in the West too is there's a huge love and appreciation and fan base for Keith Cronin. If you look at his Facebook page alone, he's 6,500 friends. Like I'd say I haven't talked to 6,500 people my whole life. Not to mind have 6,500 people as Facebook friends, and whether it's people in West Cork or in Cork in general or around the country or even abroad, you can see the respect and appreciation that there is for Keith and his talent. And Mikey Galvin, his co-driver, touched it last week when he was saying, when he was saying that when they were abroad doing the PRC back in 2017, that it was then that you saw how highly Keith is rated. So it's opened my eyes to Keith Cronin's talent and kind of what he's achieved over the years. And it's it's incredible. And the good news is we could be seeing more of him in the future.
Yeah, well, before we hear from him then, Kieran, just a quick word on Phil Healy, who finished second in Best in the West, which in itself a remarkable achievement considering how early in her own career she is. We've mentioned it umpteen times now throughout this whole process, but if we were to do this again in 5 or 10 years time, Phil Healy might be the outright favourite. So to come second at this early point is quite something as well. She obviously has a huge following behind her.
You think about it, Phil is only 25 years of age, and talking to her coach Shane McCormick or her sister Joan Healy, like we did in the podcast, or anyone in Irish athletics, they all say there's more to come from Phil Healy. She will get faster. Touch wood, everything going well, she will be an Olympian next year. So her star and her stock is continuing to rise. So Phil Healy's best years are in front of her. She's going to get faster. She's going to set more records. We're going to be seeing a lot more Phil Healy on the Star Sports pages and on the internet and on the national paper sports pages and in national media, because she's the queen of Irish sprinting at the moment. She's an incredible role model for young women in athletics, but even young women in sport and all over West Cork and beyond, because it's the way she conducts herself on and off the track is just with this touch of class, and she's always been an absolute pleasure to deal with. So it's onwards and upwards for Phil Healy, Jack, and there's a lot more to come from her. But before we hear from Keith, I just need to mention Martin Walsh as well. He's our motorsport correspondent, obviously, with the Southern Star, and he's been doing his column for many years and years, long before I ever came to the Southern Star. And he was kind of really backing campaign Keith in the last couple of weeks. And in fairness to Martin, he's done a load of work for motorsport in West Cork, promoting the sport in the Southern Star and even beyond. So, and he's always been banging the drum that there is this strong motorsport community and love for the sport in West Cork. And I think we've really seen that over the last couple of weeks. So for motorsport fanatics like Martin Walsh, and there's many more, just thousands of motorsport fans in West Cork, I think having Keith Cronin win Best in the West it's like almost recognition for their sport, you know, kind of when you think of West Cork, you think of football, you think it's GA country, but we know, Jack, that there's so many more sports down here. We've our rowers, our athletes, our road bowlers, just the GA obviously, and motorsport is a big part of the West Cork sporting DNA. So for the likes of Martin Walsh, for the likes of Keith Cronin and his supporters, I think it's that the sport has been really recognised by people here at home in West Cork and all around the country.
Absolutely. Well, let's not bury the lead any further, and let's throw to your interview with the best in the West, Keith Cronin.
Delighted to be joined by the Best in the West champion, Keith Cronin. First off, Keith, congratulations. How does the title of Best in the West sit with you?
Thanks, Kieran. It's funny, I suppose. It's a nice feeling, especially as I suppose I haven't been participating in much rallying as of late. It's good to know that what we did in the past didn't go unnoticed. So especially when we were up against such huge sports people, like even countrywide, I would say some of the best sports people have come out of West Cork. Even look at in the final, like Phil being the fastest woman in Ireland ever. Like that, to be up against someone like that and to come on top was good.
When you actually put the names of the West Cork sports people together, like we created a short list of 16 and there could have been many more we could have added to it, you really get this sense of how special West Cork is for sport. And it's not just, I suppose when people think of West Cork, they think of Gaelic football, but the beauty of Best in the West, and you know and I know, there's so much more to West Cork than GA, and we've seen that in Best in the West.
Definitely. And as you say, it really showed up in Best in the West, and I would have liked to have been you having to even pick the last team, because there's so many other sports that probably we don't think of, like even close to home in Bantry, you've got really successful kickboxers, and that's just one example. Like there's so many successful sports people in West Cork. It's amazing. Like it's okay, it's a vast area, but it's not a hugely populated area, so. It is quite something.
There's a drum I've been banging throughout Best in the West. I was telling people and shouting it loud. It's a celebration of West Cork sport and a celebration of the talented sports people in West Cork, because you're all role models and heroes for different kids and adults right around West Cork, the county, and even beyond. But as a kid growing up, Keith, who was your hero and role model? Who did you look up
to? Close to home in terms of motorsport, I definitely looked up to my uncle. I suppose there wasn't as much media attention around rallying, especially that time, so I would have looked up to him, and I suppose I idolized him really. I really did. He was quite quick, and then outside of motorsport, I suppose for some reason Roy Keane. I was a United fan from a young age, so I suppose when I was younger, Roy Keane was at his best with United, so I always liked him.
You kind of mentioned your uncle there, Dennis Cronin, and obviously he's a legend in motorsport circles as well. Was that what got you into motorsport in the first place? The fact that your uncle Dennis was achieving what he was, and even at home, I know your father was sport mad as well. Is that what kind of pushed you towards motorsport, or was that what guided you towards that sport?
Definitely, like from a very young age, I remember being up, like everything when I was younger, when they were doing rallying, it all was done out of the back of the garage in Ballylickey. So my father used to work on the cars. Then if we'd go for a test or driving the car, I'd normally get to sitting as they were going there. I wouldn't get to sit in for it or anything, but even the noise and the smells and everything, like I was around it from such a young age. And I suppose, look, without doubt, motorsport, there's a real buzz around it. It's an adrenaline sport. So, yeah, I suppose I got addicted to it at a young age, I think.
I know you dabbled with St. Collins for a while and kind of the GA side of it, but was motorsport always number one?
I enjoyed football and hurling. Don't know if I was very good at it, but I enjoyed playing it. I played it up until I think under 16 minor, but I had started racing in hot rod racing when I was probably 15, and I was getting good at it quite early. So yeah, I was definitely. I remember I missed a few championship games, and that didn't go down well. So yeah, kind of. Once I turned 16, I did a bit of co-driving, and then once I turned 17, I was gone rallying. So yeah, I was kind of always leaning. Look, with my family, like my father, as you mentioned, like he is probably the most passionate person about rallying you're ever going to meet. So I have two younger brothers now. They're 11 and 15, and they're racing already. So he's fanatical about it. So I was always going to go that way, I think.
It's definitely a kind of motorsport madhouse. You mentioned your two younger brothers, Daniel as well, won a Fast Rally a couple of years back, didn't he? And obviously yourself. So is motorsport the only topic at home when you're all in the house together, or when you're together, do you actually talk about motorsport and turn to something else? Or what's it like at the dinner table?
I suppose motorsport it gets referenced a lot, in day-to-day life. Everything can be referenced back to motorsport. I suppose the younger guys, Daniel and Dad, would do more talking about it than I would. I suppose I kind of tend to I don't know why, but maybe when I was younger, I was definitely all it took everything over. But as I've got older, probably I enjoy a lot of other things as well. So I mightn't be as fanatical as they are. But yeah, like as I said, everything gets referenced in some way back to motorsport.
But I learned a lot in this kind of Best in the West journey. I learned a lot about the different sports people, and I was surprised to learn you're only 33, Keith. Am I right? Is that how you're only 33?
33, so I'll be 34 in a month, so another year older.
So when you go back, let's say, I think your first was a Carrick-on-Shore Forest Rally back in, was it 2004, and then obviously a couple of years later, your first British Rally title. You were so young, kind of even go back to 2009, your first BRC title. You were what, 23 at the time? Could you soak it in, or at the time what you had achieved, that you won a British Rally title?
No, and I think I had this conversation with Martin yesterday. I still probably don't think it really sinks in even after we've won it a few times. I suppose it might be a few years, or when we're completely gone away from it all, that it'll soak in properly. I think this Best in the West thing actually made it sink home a little bit. To know, like, I suppose for me it just happened. We never really planned it out. It just went from, like I said, I did hot rod racing when I was in my teens, and then I went rallying, and it turned out I wasn't necessarily, didn't know if I was quick or not, but I was winning things, and I'd go to do something different, and then I was winning that, and we went to the BRC, and again we had kind of a bit of a plan that, okay, we might try and see if we can get close to the speed in the first year and maybe win it, maybe year 2, year 3, but we ended up winning it year 1. It all just kept rolling on. It didn't plan out, so I suppose I don't look back yet and realize what I've achieved. As I said, this probably makes me realize it a bit more, the success we've had in Best in the West.
And I think hopefully what Best in the West would help you too, Keith, is realise, I suppose, the appreciation and love for your talent that's out there, because I was blown away over the couple of weeks where you continually got the most votes round after round after round, and it wasn't just people in West Cork, it was beyond, it was people abroad. And I think for those of us who aren't in the motorsport community, you kind of finally realise, Jesus, Keith Cronin is some talent, and you could see like I said, the appreciation for you. And even talking to your co-driver Mikey Galvin last week, he was telling me that when you went across to Britain, he goes, there you can see how highly they kind of rate you. So to feel that warmth, love and appreciation, what's that like?
No, it's good. Look, there's definitely it's nice when someone comes up to you, and whether it be someone young asking you for an autograph, or someone just asking you, about rallying, or even you still meet people in my day-to-day life. They'll always want to talk motorsport, or so it is nice. It makes me realise, or well, maybe it does make me realise, but looking at it now, like these guys, yeah, as you said, they kind of, do they look up to me a bit? I don't know, is that the right word? But it's good. Yeah.
You mentioned there 2009, that was your first British Rally Championship title. Then 2010, the second came along. 2012, the third one came along. You'd momentum at the time, Keith. Just take me back to then. What's that feeling like? Is it almost feeling, invincible is the wrong word, but you were on such a roll, and you were racking up the titles, and you were West Cork Sports Star of the Year. You'd won a Billy Coleman Award a couple of years previously, kind of an Irish International Drivers Award. Like, it must have been a really magnificent time for you on a personal and professional level.
Yeah, it was good to rack up the wins. I suppose you can't ever go out not thinking you're going to win. So yeah, you always go out, but you mightn't show it. But I suppose every sports person has to have an inner belief that they're gonna win, whether it be a rally, a particular stage, whether it be a football game. You have to go out and think you're going to win. Like I remember my first BRC in 2009. I was a ball of nerves before the last rally, but I was quietly confident internally that I had the speed to go and win it, and I think we set a real good pace early on, and we led quite a bit from the start. And again, yeah, you went into year 2, that gave me confidence. Even when the chips were down, you think, okay, I'll be able to do it in the next rally. Something happened, you had an accident, something broke. And then that's the thing with championships as well. You always have to think that's what's happening to you. If you had a bad rally, someone else could have a bad one the next day out. So you might lose points, but you might get them back. So you always have to, I think, believe you can go and win.
You've always struck me as such a kind of a cool, calm figure, and even talking to Mikey last week, he rammed home that you are like, take me into the car for a moment in a huge rally. Kind of, you mentioned there that you were kind of a bag of nerves before one race, but how in control do you need to be in that moment as soon as you take off from the start?
Like before the event, as I said, it'd be a complete bag of nerves. Even if I went out and did an event in the morning, I'll be a bag of nerves before I'll get sick in the morning. It's like nearly a part of a ritual for me. But yeah, once the helmet goes on, and once that you get 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and once Mikey starts talking, it's you're in a different zone. You don't really know what's happening outside of that world. You're just 100% focused on what's in front of you and listening to what Mikey is, what he's saying to me. You have to be 100% focused, because obviously, there's the two of us in the car and the speeds are high, so you have to just really listen. And if you want to be fast, you have to have everything. Your corner speeds have to be you nearly have to be at the limit of what the car is capable of. Braking, you have to be getting it at the last second, because if you start to lose time, so your focus has to be really, really up there.
What's that like, pushing it right to the edge? Like you said, kind of everything needs to be the best it can be. What's that like in the car when you're in control, knowing that, like you said, you're leaving to the last split second going around the turn and so on?
You'd be surprised that you have to do it it sounds funny, you have to do it in kind of a calm manner, maybe, because if you get very aggressive in a car, and all forms of racing this would apply to, you can actually start to lose or to get slower. I don't know how to explain it, but if you sit back, relax, and I said, well, relax is the wrong word, but just be comfortable in the car and try to do everything in a calculated manner to a degree, then that's the fastest way. If you get very aggressive, sometimes you might be too fast in a corner, too slow in a corner. It's all about getting a rhythm early and trying to keep that rhythm. And yeah, that's something that I think I was good at, was getting into that rhythm and keeping the rhythm.
Like you said there, when you put on the helmet, when you put on match face, like you're Keith Cronin, the rally driver, but how different is that Keith Cronin to Keith outside of motorsport? Because they're kind of, are you like two different people, or kind of is there many similarities between life in motorsport and life outside motorsport?
I would say I'm very similar inside and outside. I'm a very determined person at whatever I do, whether it be at work, when I was in school, when I was playing any sport. As I said, whether I was good or bad, I'd always want to be the best I could be. In terms of my manner, I suppose I'm a generally very, I'm relaxing. I try to be relaxed in the car. I'm a very laid back person in general. So I suppose I'm similar in what way I am in the car and out of it. Internally, I'm a very, as I said, focused. I'm very determined at whatever I tend to do.
Very much like Best in the West, your 2018 BRC title, your fourth one, came down to fine margins, and that was absolutely incredible, Keith. It was the Isle of Man rally that final weekend, winning that last event by 1/10 of a second to clinch the title by 1 point, I think, in the end. Kind of just take me back to that weekend, and I suppose kind of starting off that weekend, how did you feel, and the range of emotions you went through as that weekend progressed?
That whole year started out, everything started going against us early in the year, but as I said, mathematically we could always do it, and we started rattling off results maybe halfway through the year, and then second last rally was Ulster, and I think we had a win, and then there was a double points scoring round in the Isle of Man, and I remember I needed someone to finish between myself and Frederick, and it was a bit calm. It helped me relax in one sense, because I said, look, I need something else to happen here. I need someone to get in between us to win the championship. So I didn't feel the pressure probably as much. So when I was probably a good bit relaxed. I wasn't as nervous as maybe I'd normally be. Came off the first stage, and we were fastest, and Matt Edwards actually was second fastest. And then I was like, okay, this can actually happen. And it just stayed that way the whole weekend. Frederick, I suppose, maybe was a bit more wound up because it was his to lose. And I remember, I think something happened to him then on the first day, and we ended up getting it. I think a couple of cars could have ended up between us, and then it was just a straight shootout on the last day, if memory serves me right. But and anyway, we managed to pull it off. I remember going to that last stage. Again, I would say I was, despite everything, I would say I was quite relaxed because there's only so much I could do. I knew I needed to go and do the best I could, and we drove a good, clean stage. One small mistake. I don't know if any rally fans will remember where I slowed down towards the finish line. I couldn't see I missed the corner or a junction. I thought I saw the wrong one. Maybe lost a fraction of a second there. If I'd held my foot on the brake a fraction longer, then that could have cost us the championship. And it's them fine margins are. That's the thing with motorsport, is it comes down to point something of a second. It was mad. Now it made the whole thing, the win, very satisfying when you win it by that tight of margin, because I've been on the other end of I've lost events by that margin as well.
Like I said there, you have 4 British Rally Championship kind of titles to your name. You're 1 behind the legendary Jimmy McRae, who has 5. And I think anyone listening and watching this podcast, they want to know, would we see Keith Cronin back in the BRC at some time in the future? Is that a possibility?
I don't know. Like age is on my side, I suppose. I'm not too old when it comes to motorsport. It's not like obviously if it was GAA soccer, if you're years getting your body battered, then it's hard to get. Just 34 and 5 is nearly your limit. But I think I would still have good speed. If someone handed me a set of keys in the morning and a full budget to go and do it, then of course I would go and do it. But there's a whole lot more to motorsport than just going and doing the events. And it's if as I said, if the budget came, that's one thing. But then there's a lot. Like it takes you have to be 100% committed to it. Like it's like any sport. Like people probably think we go to a rally and just drive. There's so much more to it than that. The preparation that needs to go into it, the days, the weeks leading into it, is huge. So if I do go back at it, I'll have to put that commitment into it. So I'd want to be sure that financial supports are there to be able to do it or to complete it. That I'm not stressing about will I make the next rally, because I've been in that position before, and it makes it difficult.
Like you kind of mentioned their budgets, and like when it comes to motorsport, like, and I suppose that financial clout, that financial muscle is so important. When you go back to, I suppose, trying to get into the WRC a couple of years ago, kind of money is so important for that. You do need the right package, Keith, don't you, to get to that level. Talent will take you so much, but you need that extra boost.
You do 100%. I was lucky enough to get to compete in the WRC in 2013, I think it was. But we did it, and it was so difficult. I had some really good sponsors that year. I had a guy, Nick O'Brien, over in the UK. He really helped me out that year, and every other year, but that year in particular. And the usual guys were with me: McCrimmon and Tria, Michal Kirby. I needed that support, but at the same time, it was the limit. As I said, I'd go to a rally, and if things go wrong, you just you wouldn't get to do proper testing, proper preparation, because you didn't have the money to be doing it. We went down to the last round. I think it was, if we had won, we would have won it outright, the championship, the category within the WRC. But we had an accident. But look, the speed was there despite no testing, very little preparation. So that was good, but it wasn't enough, because I needed to be doing that from the age probably of 18, 19, and learning these events for the teams to see you. I've learned that since that's they want to see you. You could go out and not be that fast, but they want to see you competing in the events to know that to know them really, and that's something you need financial backing to be able to do.
I'm not saying you call it a regret, but is it something that you wish that you probably got the chance and opportunity to fully show your talent with the right package at that level? Because a couple of weeks ago I was talking to Eugene Coakley. He's a two-time Olympic rower from Skibbereen, and it's 16 years on from the Athens Olympics, and he's still questioning decisions that were made in the run-up to Athens and how things didn't fall right and what could have been. And before Gary Paul won the first Olympic medal, it could have been Eugene and that Irish lightweight four. Do you ever look back, Keith, and think, oh, what might have been if things had worked out different?
To a degree, there's not a lot I could do differently in terms of I couldn't get the money, like as I said, the money wasn't there. There was sponsors are a difficult thing to get in any sport, and that's no different in motorsport. Is regret the right word? Then obviously I would have loved to had a shot at it with full financial backing, full everything, especially when my early to mid 20s when I was in that, as you said, it was just everything was going my way nearly. So it would have been good then to be able to do it, but as I said, I never ever had that financial clout to be able to go and be able to get that financial clout. So I don't really regret it because I couldn't have done anything differently. The financial clout as well probably would have taken a lot of internal pressure off, because obviously it does get that bit harder when you're trying so hard to raise money. Like in the early days, I remember between events, we were having fundraisers in towns all over Munster. We were Kerry, Limerick, all over Bantry. I remember we got a loan to be able to buy the car, and then we were trying to raise the money to repay the loan and go to the events. So in between events, there was a whole lot happening, and that adds a lot of pressure because you feel, I suppose, you're trying to, there's so many people getting behind you. You have to nearly do it for them, which may have given me an added drive as well, possibly.
Reading between the lines from this, is it fair to say that you've parked the WRC, that it's not something that you're that probably the door will open for you again in the future, do you think? Are you just going to take BRC Irish Tarmac Series, or? Yeah,
WRC is gone. It'll be, look, as I said, if I could get a budget, or someone came to me with a budget or a good chunk of money to do Irish Tarmac Championship and the British Championship, then that's something, yes, I would be interested in doing. Sometimes it would be cool to look at some of the other forms of motorsport that are out there. There's not the Dakar, but that kind of event, and endurance events always seem kind of interesting. But there, again, you need huge financial support. Something realistic possibly could be the Irish Tarmac Championship and the British Rally Championship. But I would prefer to do it with something like we did in 2000, and when we done the BRC in 2017, or was it 18? We had a really good package with M Sport that year, and that was the easiest way to go rallying, without doubt.
When you're looking back over the years now, what stands out? What rally stands out for you? What event win most resonates?
I suppose some of the early ones in the BRC in 2009. I don't think I didn't expect to do it. I don't think anyone expected it, but from the very first stage, we were right on the pace in the first rally in the BRC, and I said I didn't expect it, and we ended up coming away with the win. I remember in the second rally, that one in particular was a good one that year, because it was something similar to the Isle of Man in our last BRC. I was slightly down going into the last stage, and I ended up winning by, again, it was point something of a second. And that was probably the first two events were the platform probably for me to go on to win the championship that year. Plus, look, the Isle of Man and the last BRC was obviously a mad feeling as well, because it was just so tight. And as I said, starting the event, it was so much needed to go right for us to win it, and fortunately it did.
But I suppose one of the remarkable things about your success in the BRC is you won 4 different cars with 4 different co-drivers. And I remember a couple of weeks ago in the Star, Martin Walsh did a lovely piece about your Uncle Dennis and his famous Beamer, his BMW M3. And I was thinking, did you ever have an attachment like that to a car, or do you have an attachment like that to a car like your uncle has? Was that being work?
No, I don't have any attachments to any cars really. The first championship winning car is still around. I don't have it, but someone local does have it. Trying to think, no, I don't. Even road cars, I don't have any attachments to any road cars. They serve the purpose, I suppose, to go and win rallies, and I suppose I couldn't feel too attached to them because sometimes they might there could be a bit of damage done to them, so you wouldn't want to be worried about doing any damage.
Has Best in the West in the last couple of weeks kind of whetted competitive juices in you again, kind of whetted that? I suppose that love of the sport is the wrong thing to say, but like kind of perked your interest again about what might be out there.
To a degree, it did. Of course, as I was having this discussion with Martin again yesterday, like sitting here thinking about doing it is it does excite me. But as I said, I probably obviously when you get closer to the events and the effort that I'll have to go in, okay, I'm okay with that too. But as I said, look, I just would like to do it again with the right financial backing and stuff.
I think what stood out as well over the last couple of weeks is just how strong the motorsport community is in West Cork. I think everybody now has an appreciation of that motorsport is a kind of a mainstream sport here in West Cork. Even talking to Jamie Wall a couple of weeks ago just about Best in the West, Jamie just spent a bit of time, he said, looking through the various people that had achieved so much, and your name popped out for him. He said he'd heard of Keith Cronin, but he goes, he probably didn't realise what you'd achieved. So he spent a bit of time reading up about you, and he was like, Jesus, he's achieved an awful lot. So it's really hit home that motorsport is such an important sport here in West Cork.
It is really big down here. Is it because of the nature of the roads we grow up in? Probably the fact that historically, I know he wasn't West Cork, but Billy Coleman was a Cork man. So possibly that because from there down nearly it's very popular. Probably some good motorsport or rallying clubs in West Cork. You got like Skibbereen is probably popular. As I said, the events are very good. You've got the West Cork Rally, and obviously Killarney Rally of the Lakes comes over into West Cork sometimes too. So is that probably some of the reasoning behind it? And we've had good drivers over the years. Like as I said, even my own uncle, like Dennis, was really, really quick, and he always had a great following. So I think all of them things, good drivers, along with the nature of our roads, maybe have kept rallying popular down here. But look, I think the same goes for a lot of the minority sports down here. And like you can go back to Bill Daly, like the guy you mentioned that was lucky up about me. I didn't know much about Bill, but like he achieved a huge amount, and look at the backing he still had. And I think the minority sports are good to get behind the people within their sports.
Before I let you go, I have to mention something that you mentioned at the start. You're a Manchester United fan, like myself. Kind of, I know things aren't going great the last couple of years, but being a Man United fan or being a football fan in general, does that allow you kind of switch off from motorsport for a bit and just indulge in football and kind of just focus your attention on something other than motorsport?
Yeah, I think that's an important balance that possibly I didn't have when in my early 20s, was that ability to switch off from it. Something probably I got better at as I got older, because as I said, that level of focus, and look, it's probably the same in every sport, but for shorter periods in rallying, whether it be doing the recce, like you might do a recce on a stage for 25-30 minutes, some could be an hour, but you have to be 100% focused for that period of time. Then when you come to the rally, your stage, again, your focus has to be unwavering. Like you have to be 100% focused all of the time. And then if you're coming off stages and the evenings or between the rallies, you don't want to have to be holding that level of focus. I find it useful to be able to just try to switch off from it. And I do find sport a great way to do it. I said, like, football, rugby, GA. Like I like watching all of them, and I find them a great way to keep my mind away from, thinking about your own stresses of your own sport. But watching them as well, like seeing that competition, it keeps your own. I suppose being a competitor, you like seeing other competitions.
Just have to say thank you again for, so much enjoyment over the years. I'm only in West Cork myself, 8-10 years, and I've learned so much in my time down here, and I have a greater appreciation for what you've achieved, Keith, kind of over the years. An incredible CV you put together. And I think everyone's going to be delighted to hear that the final chapter hasn't been written. Touch wood, that there's more chapters to come in the years ahead, and you're a very worthy winner of Best in the West. So congrats on all your success, and best of luck in the future as well.
Thanks, Kieran.
The Best in the West, in association with Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union is your trusted local financial partner. Access your money 24/7 from anywhere in the world with an Access Credit Union current account, and enjoy all the benefits while keeping your money local. We support local communities. We support you.
Now, before we wrap up Best in the West, we must give a huge thanks to our partners in this whole process, and that is, of course, Access Credit Union. It was a pleasure to deal with Dominic, Amanda and Christine throughout the process, and I just wanted to make the point one more time about how easy it was to open a current account with Access Credit Union. I was able to do it all online and over the phone, which makes life so easy, and I'm thrilled now to be able to keep my money local. So let's leave Best in the West there for now, Kieran. It's been a great ride, but what do we have to look forward to in this week's Southern Star?
It goes without saying, Jack, that Best in the West is front and centre. We've an interview with Keith Cronin in this week's Southern Star, and also there's plenty of reading besides that. I've spoken to Darren Sweetnam's former Downey coach Dave O'Leary, just to find out how good was Darren Sweetnam as a hurler. We all know that he's a Munster Rugby player now, and the Munster Rugby squad returned to training this week. But I wanted just to find out how good Darren Sweetnam could have become as a hurler. I know it's subjective. It's kind of probably high stool talk in a pub when you're talking about a fella who left hurling when he was 18 and not 19. But it's interesting to talk to Dave O'Leary and to get his view on just how good Darren Sweetnam could have been. So I think that's a very interesting read. We have an interview with Caoimhe O'Callaghan. She's a Kinsale footballer who's now in with the Cork squad. When you think of Kinsale ladies footballers, you think of Orla Finn and Sive O'Leary. But we can add a third name to that list now, Caoimhe O'Callaghan, who's in with the Cork seniors. We have a very interesting read with the West Cork Schoolboys League Secretary David Hall, just on the Schoolboys League's plans for their return to action over the coming weeks and months, and how they're going to approach health and safety, how they're changing formats and so on. So that's an interesting read for anyone who's involved or has an interest in schoolboys soccer. As well as that, John Murphy, the Kinsale golfer, picked up a West Cork Sports Star Award on Monday night. Great to see the West Cork Sports Star Awards back up and running, and great too to see Paddy Palmer, that enigmatic voice of sport that we've grown to love over the years. He was back at the West Cork Sports Star Awards after a spell away. So it's brilliant to see Paddy back, and we're all delighted to have him. So we've a piece with John Murphy in this week's Southern Star. The West Cork Minute, which is quickly gaining its cult following again, has Ronan Hurley of Cork City FC fame kind of answering all the questions that matters, including who would win between a polar bear and how many penguins would it take to kill a shark? So that's the question that has everyone stumped over the last couple of weeks, and it will continue to stump people in the weeks and months to come. And finally, in bowling news, 4 bowlers have been, I suppose, reprimanded for breaking bowling restrictions over the last couple of weeks when the lockdown restrictions were imposed. And there's two high-profile senior bowlers have had their memberships rescinded, which is quite big news in road bowling circles. So we've more of that in this week's Southern Star. So there's plenty in there, Jack. And like always, it's on sale Thursday morning in shops and online in e-paper form.
Yeah, if you can't make it to the shop, you can purchase it online. Just go on to www.southernstar.ie/e-paper and you can read the Southern Star for less than €2 per week. Thanks for listening to the Star Sport Podcast. We'll be back at the same time next week. If you enjoy these shows, please make sure to rate, review and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Acast, Stitcher, or wherever else you listen to the show.